Gentlemen, it's that time again. Welcome to this week's episode of the Tuesday Trash. Roll the clip.
The Clarkman Fantasy Football League, let's go! It's the Clarkman Fantasy Football League, let's go!
And welcome back to the Tuesday Trash. I am your host, Ben Clark, as always, and today is a little bit different, as you probably noticed. See, I'm recording this episode on the beautiful campus at the University of Tennessee instead of in my bedroom, because I have a concert tonight, and I don't feel like recording as soon as I get back home at like 11 o'clock, so I'm recording it now. I'll probably edit it sometime later, but I'm recording now. We got a really solid show lined up for you guys today, and a couple of new segments, a couple of surprises, but without further ado, let's get straight into it. This is a completely brand new segment called the Skippy Team of the Week Award, which goes to the team with the best all-around performance during the week. This, of course, is entirely subjective to my personal opinions, as is all of the rest of this show, so if you're offended, suck it up. For those of you who haven't won it yet, or likely will never win it, the name of our league winners trophy is called the Hairy Chest Award, in honor of Jewel Clark. And one of the things that Jewel used to say, so I've heard, was that peanut butter would put hair on your chest. Now, I'm not a big, avid, peanut butter guy, but looking around just through a couple of different brand names, I landed on this one because I thought it sounded fun to name an award after. And this award will go to the best team of the week. Most of the time, this award will go to the team that scores the highest point total, just because I'm lazy like that. But this week, the award goes to Jeremy and the Indy Shepherds. Jeremy, Jonah drafted you a really good team this year, I must admit. You only had 2 players this week that didn't score double-digit points, making this week an excellent all-around performance for you. Just be careful when Week 11 rolls around and your entire team is out with a terrible case of bye week. Now, with all of that done, we'll move now to our losers recap. We will kick this recap off with Caleb. Caleb lost this week. Was 2-0, started the season undefeated. This knocks him off that 0-2 or 2-0 pedestal, meaning that the AI couldn't save him this time. Caleb and his Autobots failed to transform those points into a win, and let's be honest, they were supposed to be unstoppable. I mean, I've talked to a number of various people in this league, and most of them claimed him to be the best team around. Some of them even claiming him to win the whole thing outright. However, I beat you, Caleb. That's right. Your precious, auto-drafted team that you take meticulous care of, I might admit. You lost to me. Yours truly. I hope the circuits are shorting out in shame right now, because losing to me is the kind of glitch even Optimus Prime can't fix. Even if you do end up winning the whole thing, just know that despite my star wide receiver putting up 1.3 points this week, I took you down early in the season. Now, I hope you're able to learn from this. But at the end of the day, it's a whole lot of heart and not a lot of points on your team. Sorry, bud. Next up, we have Papa John. Papa John made history this week by completing his first ever trade in the CMFFL, moving Romo Dunze for Devon Achane. This move unfortunately wasn't enough to save him from Andy and the Vikings defense, who scored 30 points. Now, I'm a math guy. I do a lot of math on this show. And 30 points was a fourth of Andy's team scoring, which is ridiculous. For more reference, the 85 Bears averaged about 20 fantasy points per game on defense, and 30's a lot. 30's a lot. There's not a lot you can do. But with a healthy Joe Burrow, this doesn't happen. The Vikings defense doesn't score nearly that amount of points because they're not playing Jake Browning as their starting quarterback. Unfortunately for Papa John, that would not be the case, and he takes his first loss of the season. Tough loss, man. Moving on to Eric. Eric lost again, and in other news, the sky is blue. I acquired one of Eric's running backs earlier this week in a trade deal, that being Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker called me earlier this week after the win and thanked me for getting him off your godforsaken team. Granted, it's not like he could have saved you this week, as this is the second time this season that your team has scored less than 60 points. I know I'm putting up historically low numbers, but that's all in the name of maximum efficiency. You are putting up historically low numbers because your team sucks. There's a difference. Next, we have Josh. Josh, your starting receivers averaged a mere 1 point apiece. You once again left David Montgomery on your bench, which was once again dumb, as he would have scored more than all of your players individually, and all but 3 of your players combined. Yikes. Congrats on the so far winless season. Enjoy 0-3, my friend. And completing the terrible trio, the winless stay winless, and Adam falls to 0-3 as well. Adam, dude, your roster management is horrid, man. You started 2 players who were injured this week, and your team barely scraped 70 out of the barrel. Theo, it might be time to log into your dad's ESPN account and claim some players up off the waiver wire. Even though you probably don't know what you're doing at this point, you can't put together a worse team than he has for the last 3 weeks. With the losers recap complete, that takes us to this week's chump of the week, which is Billy.
Hey, my cousin Billy, he's a chump.
Billy lost his matchup to Scott by half a point on a meaningless garbage time touchdown to a tight end that had 2 total receptions last year. Mark Andrews decided tonight was going to be his personal Super Bowl, putting up a heroic 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. While it wasn't enough for the Ravens to come through against Detroit, it would be enough for Scott to come through against Billy. ESPN gave Billy a 99% chance of winning all the way up until the Ravens' last drive of the game. And then it all came crashing down, just like his playoff hopes. Honestly, it was kind of poetic. Billy sitting there, probably asleep, thinking of some trash talk to put in the message board, only to wake up this morning and see that Scott had stolen it away with the fantasy equivalent of a hit and run. Half a point. Billy. Half a point. Man. Brutal. Anyways, better luck next week, chump. I'm sure you'll find some way to come at me on the message board again, despite having the second worst record in the league. At this point, your best contribution to the league might just be serving as everyone else's emotional support win. Oh, wait, no, that's Eric. My bad, Billy. My bad. Moving on from that segment, we have a little special segment. This is just the random bit that I do every week. Just a mere 2 days ago, our 12th favorite league member, Adam, turned 40. And I wanted to take a little bit of time out of our scheduled programming to celebrate him a little bit. Granted, it was either this or doing sorority girl football education, and we all know that was pointless. So, Adam, welcome to your 40s, my man. I'm sure you still feel young, but spoilers, you're not. Just a quick bit of math for you. At this point in time, you are now closer to turning 80 than you are to being born. On the reverse end of that, right now, I am older than you were when I was born. To celebrate you just a little bit further, I've put together a couple of coming-of-age jokes, if you will. I hope you enjoy. Adam, you are so old, your social security number is 7. You are so old that your doctor doesn't give you a physical, he just checks to see if you're still breathing. You are so old that when you were a kid, rainbows were still in black and white. You are so old that if you walked into an antique shop, they would try and keep you. You are so old that you remember Genesis chapter 1 happening. You are so old you called the Old Testament the Testament. You're so old, you used to play bridge with Queen Elizabeth when she was growing up. You're so old, you have to pee 4 times a night, but you only get up for 2 of them. You are so old, you tell your kids you walked 20 miles to school uphill both ways in the snow. And finally, you are so old that you were alive the last time the Bears were good at football. With all of that said, seriously, happy birthday, Adam. You may be 40 now, but look on the bright side. Tom Brady won a Super Bowl at your age. Granted, your team probably couldn't beat Eric right now, but hey, I mean, think positive, maybe? I don't know. Moving on to our pick'em segment of the show, where we'll kick things off with Dave versus Scott. Scott, you obviously pulled a miracle off last week. Seriously, highway robbery. I just don't think it's going to happen again this week. No way lightning strikes the same place twice. I've got my dad with the win. Nothing personal, just probability. Next, we have 0-3 Eric versus Auto Draft Caleb. I love a good underdog matchup, so I'm taking this as my upset of the week, with Eric pulling out the win here. Spoiler alert, I'll also be taking Eric as the upset of the week every week for the rest of the season until he wins his first game. Next is our matchup between Josh and Adam. This matchup will be entertaining in the sense that watching 2 old guys fighting in wheelchairs is entertaining. You're absolutely mortified that it's happening, but you can't help but watch. Out of all the scenarios that I think would be funniest, I think a tie would be near the top of that list. But since I have to pick one of you, I'm rocking with Birthday Boy. Adam, you're getting the win this week. Moving on, we've got Andy versus Jeremy. Jeremy's team is coming off a string of good weeks, and I think they're primed for another one. Andy's defense isn't playing against the Burrowless Bengals this week, so they're not scoring 30 points, which means Andy's team is in danger. That's just the way that it is. Roll Shepherds. This brings us to our game of the week between league powerhouses Josiah and Papa John. Even though he can't see much of anything or feel things with his hands or feet, I've got the old guy taking down grandson number 1. We'll see how that trade progresses and who honestly pulls out the other side, as Rome Odunze and Devon Achane will play their respective teams, their former respective teams, for the first time this week. And finally, to wrap up this segment, we of course have myself versus the chump of all chumps, freshly crowned chump of the week, Billy the Chump Clark. Now, this honestly isn't fair. I'll be quite frank. I've already given out my charity win of the season, so this should be a piece of cake. Billy's retirement home roster will drop to 1-3 this week as I sit near the top of the league, maybe at the top of the league, depending on how the standings roll. So, yeah, sorry about that future impending loss, Billy, but it's time to pack up shop and call it a day, man. And that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you all for joining us on this episode of the Tuesday Trash. As always, gentlemen, stay humble, stay trashy, and I'll see you in the message board. Peace. Should probably take this with me, shouldn't I?
The Clarkman Fantasy Football League, let's go! It's the Clarkman Fantasy Football League, let's go! Hey, my cousin Billy, he's a chump. My cousin Andy is another chump. My cousin Scott is a big old chump.